Thank you so much for being on the programme. It's great to speak to you. I mean, you're obviously an actress, you're also a mother, you're someone who has often worked with children in children's charities throughout your life, and you're increasingly worried about what you describe as the digital destruction of childhood. What is it that you mean by that?
I mean an onslaught of screens from every possible angle. Children are getting phones too young, they're being given iPads to subdue them when they're very little, and now I'm increasingly worried about the tech provision in nurseries, primary schools and senior schools.
You're worried about the impact of it, clearly, and there is data to back up what you're saying as well. A quarter of children under 7 have a smartphone. What is it doing to our children then?
It's making them artificially stimulated, and it's making them not able to regulate themselves. It's making them very agitated and sort of numb. It's a really bad combination. Screens do something very strange to a child's brain. It caffeinates them and zombifies them.
It's like two things at the same time.
Two bad things at the same time. And I think it's very sad when I see very young children out and about just given an iPad when they'd be perfectly happy looking at people and dogs and shop windows and, you know, bus drivers, and they'd be perfectly stimulated by this real analogue world, yet we've chosen to digitally pacify them, and I think it's very dangerous.
You are particularly worried about what you describe as EdTech. So what is EdTech, firstly?
EdTech is a sort of form of education which we've embraced with very open arms without proof that it's really very helpful for children in the classroom setting. And I'm finding out very extraordinary information that it's really hampering children's learning. As I say, I think screens are not helpful for children's brains. And I'm working with Jonathan Haidt quite closely on all sorts of clinical research which is coming out, that children learn much better reading from an actual book and writing with a pencil. The learning is much deeper.
It's interesting because I feel like people who don't have kids at school age at the minute might not really be that aware of how much tech there is in the classroom, whether it's in the classroom itself, computing lessons or whatever, but also homework being done on apps or on Google Classroom. I mean, it is a really big thing, isn't it?
It's a really big thing, and I'm pro-tech. Tech's brilliant and fascinating. I think it should be moderately used. I think it should be used in IT lessons, of course. Children should be digitally literate, but there's a difference between being literate and dependent and damaged by it. And I think there's a problem we're facing in Britain in that all exams might go online, GCSEs and A-levels, by 2030. And I think it's something parents should know about. And it is something parents are aware of because they see their children stressing out in front of these screens for homework. They're in front of interactive smartboards in the classroom, which I'm not keen on. I don't think they're a good learning tool. I think a teacher writing something out on a whiteboard's much more effective. And I'm worried about the lack of humanity in education at the moment.
Are you worried about it from a data protection angle as well?
As well, definitely. Because I think a lot of EdTech is not transparent enough about what it's doing. And I think a lot of it harvests information and tracks children, and parents aren't aware of it. And I want more transparency on what's being spent on this stuff and where is the proof that it's a healthy and effective way to learn.
Just to put the counter-argument, because some might say, look, using some of these apps and programmes is a really helpful tool for teachers to use, particularly if they're overworked, they've got to do loads of marking. It helps free up their time to spend it more effectively with the children. I'm
completely pro-teacher tech aids, like no more marking is genius, it's brilliant. It's when it impacts the pupil, that's why I say moderation is key. When it impacts the learner, I have a problem with it. When it helps the teacher, brilliant. But I know of a lot of teachers who love commanding a classroom, charismatic, passionate teachers who are very upset to have to go down this digital route and dehumanise the teaching process. And a lot of great slightly older teachers are leaving the profession. And when we have a problem with teacher recruitment, that's terrible. I read something that you said previously through your work at a charity called School Home Support, where you were visiting a lot of schools, and something that you said really struck me when you said
that you saw children who were distracted in classrooms but silent in the playgrounds. So I just wondered if I could ask you what was that like? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, in schools where they had one-to-one devices, the children weren't really focusing on their set tasks or listening to the teacher. They were some of them were finding ways around what they were meant to be learning. Some of them were zoned out. It was possible for the teacher to tell who was gripped and who was absolutely somewhere else mentally. So they weren't focusing on what they were being taught. And in break time, they were on their phones. They weren't talking to each other. And usually playgrounds were a sort of deafening, sweet jungle of excitement and interaction. And instead, these children were completely isolated on their screens.
And do you think that's because they're just losing those interpersonal skills?
Yeah, I do.
You also lived in California, and you said that over there, the tech bosses keep their own kids away from this stuff.
It's really funny. It's something I've discussed with Jonathan Haidt, who I'm working quite a lot with now, which is a joy. Lots of people who design this stuff that we're buying over here don't let their own children anywhere near it. And they send them to schools like the Waldorf School of the Peninsula, which is pretty much tech-free. And these are huge Silicon Valley beasts deciding not to go down that route for their own children. And all the tech giants we've heard of were very sceptical about it for their own children. Steve Jobs didn't let his children use iPads. Bill Gates has said he's gone on record as saying devices have a lousy record in the classroom. There are all these little hypocrisies going on, which I think people need to be aware of.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that you can imagine making some parents feel quite angry, that they've developed this tech, but it's fine for other kids to use it, but not their own.
Well, in some ways, yes. In some ways, they're businessmen, and it's up to our governments and educators to say, prove this stuff is better than a paper and pen, and sure, we'll go for it. But it's not.
What do you think governments should do? What are you calling on governments to do?
I'd like governments to be very honest about what's going on here, because the contagion of tech in such young key stage areas is not working, and it's really damaging children. I want to know why primary schools, there's YouTube story time instead of a teacher telling kids a story. I want to know why there's so much continuous screen use in secondary school. I just want a bit of honesty. Is there a financial incentive going on? Why are we allowing a huge company to take all our GCSEs online by 2030 when I don't think most of the board of a particular company, I can't say which because I'll get into trouble, I don't think any of them are educators. So this seems like a big old business rather than something that's good for the children. Someone in America described ed tech as big tech in a school uniform. And I just want more of a spotlight on it, and I want more honesty.
There's also been calls to ban social media for under 16s, or even to ban smartphones for under 16s. Is that something you'd support?
Yeah, I would support it. I don't think there's any upsides at all for social media for young people. I think it makes them wretched. I don't think smartphones are healthy. I think if you want to get in touch with someone, you could text and call them on an old-fashioned sort of flip phone. I'm very supportive of that. That argument is being waged very powerfully now, and I'm very happy about it. But I think we need to start looking at EdTech.
Yeah, that's clearly the thing that you're really focusing on. Just more widely, look, these issues and these questions are something that all parents are grappling with, including myself. I remember, Liz Truss, the former PM, saying that she used to kind of make everyone in her house lock their smartphones in a box overnight, so she banned them from bedrooms.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of rules that you try to follow?
Well, it's really hard. I did a talk last week with Hugh Grant, is very on side about this, and Jonathan Haidt, and Hugh and I feel exactly the same about these things. And they're terribly addictive machines. And if your school gives your child an iPad or a Chromebook to learn on, they've taken all power away from you, all agency away from you, and the kids find screens more exciting than anything else. So it's a battle I wage all the time. It's a battle tons of parents are going through, and I want government and, I think, NHS support.
Do you battle with it yourself? Are you addicted to your phone? I'm addicted to mine, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I am. And I'm not on any social media at all, and I'm still... And when you sort of think you've lost your phone, I really resent the fact that I nearly have a full-on heart attack.
Yeah. Where is it?
I can't bear that. Why am I so dependent on this wretched machine? I just want us all to step back and say, these things are controlling us. It's not the other way around.
It's like the doom scrolling as well. I kind of sit on the sofa and I'm like, I'm just going to browse this. Then it's like half an hour later, I'm like, oh, that's just gone, that time. I'm never going to get it back.
Exactly. And it's very important for children because they really won't get that time back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. you speak a lot about children finding joy outside, whether it is, playing outside, chasing the ball, playing sport, all of those kind of things, or reading books. I'm someone who's very passionate about books. It's always something that I've enjoyed over my life. And I just wondered, is there anything that you would, fall on as, as a parent that you've seen that brings kind of joy to your family?
Being outdoors is good for children, but even being indoors, it's better to look at a wall than it is to look at an iPad. It's better to draw a picture, or everything you can do apart from being on a screen is free. It's writing a little story, it's reading a book, it's kicking a football around. I mean, all the wholesome things a child can do, none of them cost anything. So it's not like it's a sort of nasty equity issue. It's not. It's a sort of completely apolitical child welfare rallying cry that I want all parents to know that giving their child an iPad, I've made the mistake, all of us have, is like giving them a drug where nothing else will suffice. Once they've seen that thing, nothing else creative or calm is interesting.
It's been fascinating to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.